There is a quiet frustration that many highly successful men carry, but rarely talk about openly. From the outside, their lives appear powerful and admirable. They have built careers, developed discipline, created financial stability, and earned respect in professional spaces. People look at them and assume that everything must be easy for them, especially when it comes to relationships and dating. Society teaches us a simple formula. If a man becomes successful, confident, and accomplished, women will naturally be drawn to him and relationships will fall into place. But the truth is far more complicated, and for many men who reach a high level of success, dating becomes unexpectedly difficult rather than easier. What most people do not understand is that success reshapes a man's psychology, his habits, his priorities, and the way he interacts with the world. And those changes often create hidden barriers in romantic relationships that few people ever discuss. Success demands a very specific mindset. A man who rises above the average in business, career, or personal achievement usually develops an intense focus on control, strategy, and long-term outcomes. He learns to think in terms of efficiency, productivity, and measurable results. His days become structured around goals and responsibilities, and every hour carries weight. This mindset is extremely powerful when building a career, but relationships operate in a completely different emotional language. Dating is not about efficiency, and attraction is not created through logic or planning. Emotional connection thrives in spontaneity, vulnerability, and emotional openness, qualities that often become suppressed in a life built around discipline and control. Many successful men unknowingly train themselves to suppress emotional expression because their environments reward strength and composure. In competitive workplaces, vulnerability can be perceived as weakness. Decision-making requires confidence and certainty, not hesitation. Over time, this creates a psychological pattern where emotions are managed internally rather than shared outwardly. When this pattern carries into dating, it can make a man appear distant or emotionally unavailable, even if he deeply desires connection. Women do not only respond to status or success, they respond strongly to emotional presence. If emotional expression has been replaced by logical communication, attraction can struggle to grow. Another challenge appears in the form of time and energy. Achieving meaningful success rarely happens without sacrifice. Long hours, constant problem solving, and relentless focus on improvement become the foundation of a successful lifestyle. This schedule leaves little room for the slow, uncertain process of building romantic relationships. Dating requires patience, emotional attention, and the willingness to invest time without guaranteed outcomes. For a man who has spent years operating in environments where effort produces clear results, this uncertainty can feel frustrating or inefficient. It becomes tempting to treat dating like a problem that needs a solution rather than an experience that unfolds organically. Success also changes the way other people perceive a man, and this can quietly complicate dating dynamics. When a man is known for his achievements, wealth, or influence, it becomes difficult to determine whether attraction is genuine or influenced by those external factors. This uncertainty creates a subtle form of emotional caution. Instead of feeling free to connect naturally, a successful man may begin to question intentions. Is the interest authentic, or is it tied to lifestyle, status, or opportunity? This doubt can lead to emotional distance, even when a connection has potential to grow. There is another psychological layer that many people overlook. Success often raises personal standards and expectations. A man who has spent years building discipline and self-improvement begins to value ambition, intelligence, and emotional maturity at a very high level. He wants a partner who complements the life he has built, someone who understands growth, purpose, and responsibility. But high standards naturally reduce the number of compatible partners, which can make dating feel like searching for a rare alignment rather than simply meeting someone new. At the same time, the very qualities that drive success can unintentionally intimidate potential partners. Confidence, ambition, and a clear sense of direction are attractive traits, but when they appear extremely strong, they can create a psychological imbalance in early dating stages. Some women may feel that they cannot match that level of achievement or lifestyle, and instead of feeling inspired, they feel pressure or insecurity. Attraction thrives when both people feel comfortable and valued, not when one person feels they must measure up to an intimidating standard. Another hidden difficulty arises from the habit of independence. Successful men often learn to rely primarily on themselves. They solve problems alone, carry responsibilities alone, and make decisions alone. This independence becomes a strength in professional life, but relationships require interdependence. Emotional partnership means allowing another person to influence your life, share decisions, and participate in vulnerabilities. For someone who has spent years building self-reliance, opening that space can feel unfamiliar and even uncomfortable. There is also the issue of emotional risk. Building success teaches a man to calculate risks carefully. In business, risk is analyzed, managed, and reduced whenever possible. But emotional connection cannot be approached with the same logic. Attraction requires the willingness to be rejected, misunderstood, or disappointed. For men who have built their lives around controlled outcomes, entering a space where rejection is possible can feel surprisingly difficult. It is not that successful men fear rejection more than others. It is that they have spent years minimizing uncertainty, and dating brings uncertainty back into the center of life. Another paradox appears when success creates admiration, but not necessarily emotional intimacy. Many people admire successful individuals from a distance. They respect the achievements, the discipline, the lifestyle. But admiration is not the same as emotional closeness. Relationships require seeing the human being behind the accomplishments, the insecurities, the imperfections, and the personal story that shaped the success. If people only see the external image, the connection remains superficial. Sometimes successful men also struggle because they are used to environments where their efforts are recognized and rewarded. In work or business, results bring praise, promotion, or financial growth. In dating, effort does not guarantee attraction. You can be kind, thoughtful, intelligent, and responsible, yet still experience rejection or lack of chemistry. This difference can feel confusing because the same qualities that create success in professional life do not always translate directly into romantic success. Another important factor is lifestyle alignment. Success often leads to a very structured daily routine. Early mornings, intense work schedules, networking events, and constant personal development become normal. Not everyone shares this rhythm. A partner who prefers a slower or more relaxed lifestyle may feel disconnected from someone whose life moves with relentless momentum. Finding someone whose lifestyle naturally aligns with that pace can take time and patience. Emotional communication also plays a critical role. Many successful men become highly skilled in analytical conversation. They explain ideas clearly, solve problems quickly, and approach discussions with logic. But emotional communication requires a different skill set. It involves listening deeply, sharing feelings openly, and allowing conversations to move through vulnerability rather than solutions. When emotional conversations are replaced with logical explanations, partners may feel unheard even if the intention was to help. There is also the pressure of expectations. Society often portrays successful men as people who should effortlessly attract partners and build relationships. When dating difficulties appear, it can feel like a contradiction to the image of success. This pressure sometimes prevents open conversations about the struggle, leaving men to navigate the challenge privately rather than seeking understanding or support. Another psychological dynamic emerges from the idea of identity. When a man dedicates many years to building his career or personal achievements, those accomplishments become a central part of how he sees himself. Dating introduces situations where he must be valued not only for what he has built, but for who he is as a person. This shift from performance-based validation to emotional validation can feel unfamiliar. Trust becomes another subtle challenge. The more a person achieves, the more experiences they may have with people who approach them with hidden agendas. These experiences can slowly build a protective emotional wall. Even when someone genuinely cares, the instinct to remain guarded may delay the growth of trust and emotional intimacy. Despite all these challenges, the struggle does not mean that successful men are incapable of building meaningful relationships. In fact, many of the qualities that create success can also create strong partnerships when balanced with emotional awareness. Discipline can become reliability, ambition can become inspiration, independence can become stability. The key lies in learning to shift between the mindset that builds success and the mindset that nurtures connection. Dating does not reward perfection, it rewards authenticity. When a man allows himself to be seen beyond achievements, when he shares thoughts, emotions, and imperfections openly, the dynamic of attraction begins to change. Emotional presence becomes more powerful than status, and connection begins to grow naturally rather than strategically. It is also important to understand that relationships are not built through the same rules that govern career success. In work, competition and performance drive progress. In relationships, empathy and emotional openness create depth. When a man recognizes this difference and allows space for vulnerability, he begins to experience dating from a new perspective. Another transformation occurs when success is no longer treated as a shield, but as a foundation. Instead of relying on achievements to define worth, a man learns to engage with people from a place of curiosity and emotional honesty. This approach removes pressure from both sides and allows attraction to develop in a more genuine way. Ultimately, the reason many successful men struggle with dating is not because success makes them less desirable. It is because the path to success often builds psychological patterns that are perfectly suited for competition, achievement, and independence, but require adjustment when entering the emotional world of relationships. When those patterns are understood and balanced with emotional awareness, the same man who once struggled to create connection can discover that relationships become deeper, more meaningful, and far more rewarding than any external achievement. The moment a man begins to understand this hidden dynamic, something powerful starts to shift inside him. He realizes that the problem was never that he was too successful, too ambitious, or too driven. The real issue was that the same mindset that helped him conquer the external world was never designed to navigate the emotional world of human connection. Success teaches a man how to win, how to dominate challenges, how to outwork competition, and how to control outcomes. But love, attraction, and deep connection do not follow the rules of competition. They follow the language of presence, patience, and emotional truth. Many successful men reach a point where they start questioning themselves. They look at their achievements and wonder why the same discipline that built their life does not seem to produce the same results in relationships. They may even start to believe that something is wrong with them. But the truth is far more liberating than that. Nothing is wrong with them. What is required is simply a shift in awareness. Relationships do not grow from performance. They grow from authenticity. Think about the journey of a man who spent 10 or 15 years building his career. During those years, he learned to wake up early, work longer than everyone else, carry responsibility, and push through exhaustion. He became the person people rely on. He became the problem solver, the decision maker, the leader. That role becomes so deeply embedded in his identity that he begins to carry it everywhere, even into his personal life. But in relationships, the role of leader is not always about solving problems or directing outcomes. Sometimes leadership in love means something much simpler, yet much harder: the courage to be emotionally open. Many men have never been taught that emotional openness is not weakness. They were taught to stay strong, stay composed, and keep moving forward no matter what happens. These lessons create resilience, but they can also create emotional distance. A woman may admire a man's strength, but what truly creates emotional closeness is when she can see the human side of him: the fears, the dreams, the struggles, the moments of doubt. When those parts remain hidden behind a wall of control, connection cannot reach its full depth. Another realization begins to emerge for many successful men. They understand that attraction is not only about what you provide, but about how you make someone feel when they are around you. A woman may admire a man's career, his discipline, and his ambition, but what truly draws her closer is emotional energy. Does she feel safe to be herself? Does she feel understood? Does she feel that her presence matters beyond appearances or status? These emotional experiences are what transform admiration into genuine attraction. This is why some men who appear average in status or achievement sometimes build very strong romantic connections. They may not carry the same level of professional success, but they naturally communicate warmth, curiosity, and emotional presence. They listen without trying to fix everything. They laugh easily. They allow conversations to flow without turning every interaction into a strategic exchange. These qualities create a relaxed emotional environment where attraction can grow naturally. For a highly successful man, learning this does not mean abandoning ambition or lowering standards. It simply means expanding emotional awareness. It means recognizing that relationships thrive when both people feel seen and valued for who they truly are. When a man begins to shift from performance to presence, something remarkable happens. Conversations become more natural. Pressure disappears. Authentic attraction begins to replace forced interactions. Another important shift happens when successful men stop viewing dating as a test of worth. In the world of achievement, success and failure often define identity. But in relationships, rejection is not always a reflection of value. Sometimes it is simply a matter of compatibility, timing, or emotional readiness. When a man understands this, rejection loses its power to damage confidence. Instead, it becomes a natural part of the journey toward the right connection. There is also a deeper truth that many people discover later in life. Success can build a powerful life, but connection is what gives that life meaning. A man can achieve recognition, wealth, and influence, but the moments that truly shape human fulfillment are the moments shared with people who genuinely understand and care for him. The quiet conversations, the shared laughter, the emotional support during difficult days. These experiences cannot be bought, earned, or controlled through strategy. They are built through emotional openness and trust. When successful men learn to balance ambition with vulnerability, they often become extraordinary partners. The same discipline that built their careers becomes reliability in relationships. The same vision that drove their success becomes a shared future with someone they care about. The same resilience that carried them through challenges becomes emotional strength that supports a partner through difficult times. But this transformation begins with a simple realization. Relationships are not another project to complete. They are a space where two people grow together, influence each other, and create meaning beyond individual success. When a man releases the need to control every outcome and instead focuses on genuine connection, he begins to experience dating in a completely different way. He starts listening more deeply. He becomes curious about the person sitting across from him instead of trying to impress them. He allows conversations to explore emotions rather than constantly proving value. And in that space of authenticity, attraction often becomes stronger than any display of status or success. The world often celebrates the visible victories of successful men, the promotions, the businesses, the achievements that everyone can see. But the quiet victory that matters just as much is the ability to build real connection, the ability to share life with someone who understands the man behind the accomplishments. And when that balance finally appears, something extraordinary happens. Success no longer feels lonely. Ambition no longer feels isolating. Instead, the life a man has built becomes a life that can be shared, appreciated, and experienced with someone who values not just what he has achieved, but who he truly is. Because at the end of the day, the greatest power a man can have is not just the ability to succeed in the world, but the ability to open his heart without fear, the courage to let someone see the real person behind the strength, the wisdom to understand that connection is not a distraction from success, but one of the most meaningful forms of success a human being can ever experience. And when a successful man finally learns this lesson, he does not lose his strength. He becomes something far greater. He becomes complete.